Hey everybody, how you doing? Dave Fennoy here. Another Wednesday, another Ask Dave Fennoy Anything. And I have a wonderful guest, but before we say hello, just a reminder, if you really enjoy Ask Dave Fennoy Anything, they live on my YouTube channel, Dave Fennoy Voiceover Training. So you can always go back. Well, maybe not always. Every now and then there's a problem with one. We had one with a problem with one last week. But you can go back and see what you missed. Maybe you got started and couldn't finish, or you came in the middle and missed something interesting. So you can always check back. And of course, if you are interested in voiceover coaching, I'm here for you at davefennoy.com. Just click on the Study VO tab, and away you go. And speaking of studying VO, let me introduce my guest, who is a wonderful guy. And he is the creator of VO Atlanta. And there he is, Mr. Gerald Griffith. How you doing, G?
I am all right, man. How about yourself, Dave?
I am doing fantastic, fantastic. And you look just a little bit tired. You look good, but you look just a little bit tired. I imagine this is from ripping and running, trying to get this together for how many people at VO Atlanta this year? Oh,
There with me? You freeze up on me. Okay, I'm back.
okay. It sounded like you. It looked like you froze up on me, but I guess to you, I was
Yeah.
frozen. So
Okay.
this is an amazing event that you've put on for how many years, VO Atlanta?
This is the eighth year.
This is the eighth year. Now, when you first started, how many people did you have for that first one?
About 125.
125. And I think 2 years ago, last year we were canceled, right? Or you did a virtual one?
No, last year we got COVID kicked us to the curb,
Yeah, that's
man.
what I thought.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. I seem to recall that, and these memories bounce around in my head. But you're back this year, and the year before, how many attendees did you have?
Probably around 800.
Well, wow, wow. So you have been experiencing phenomenal growth, and I know why. I tell people all the time that VO Atlanta is just one of the very best conferences, especially VO conferences, that anyone can attend. So you're not a voiceover guy, though. You're not an agent. You're not in show business. What got you interested in starting a conference for voiceover?
Well, the long and short story of it is that I have a background more as a public speaker,
Ah,
and looked into voiceover as an option to build on communication skills, which
mm-hmm.
you'll hear me talk about from time to time. And so, in the course of doing that training, I was fairly new to the Atlanta area and just was like, well, I don't know a lot of people, so maybe I'll start a small meetup group to have a chance in order to mostly meet people in the area. I figured, through a meetup group, I can kind of know what's going on for training and things. And a lot of people joined the meetup group. It grew really, really fast right out the gate. And so I started doing training and bringing in guests through that meetup group. And one thing led to another, and more people were buying into the idea of having the group. Within, I don't know, 3 or 4 months, the group was already well over 100 people, then 200 people. And then we started doing classes. And I was bringing in presenters from all around the country to do classes and workshops and things like that. And eventually got to a point I was like, well, what do we do beyond a class? Can we do something else? Because at that time, the big conferences were maybe like Joan and Rudy up in New York, or there was a couple out of California, but everything was pretty much far away from the Atlanta area. So my goal I started off with was to have an event that was drivable to the people in the Southeast. Um, and that's where it kind of got started.
okay. And it just took on a life of its own.
Oh yeah,
uh,
it's definitely has done that.
you know, I think it was 2013 or 2014 was when I met you, and I was there. And what I was impressed by was watching you work in the hall. For those who don't know, Gerald is a big man. He's tall, he's wide. You're not as wide as you used to be, but he's a big guy. And all of these people at this particular conference, and I think this was like your second one, maybe, and people were, when you put things on like this, stuff goes wrong. People aren't in the place they're supposed to be. Equipment falls apart. People are confused. I thought I was in this room. No, I'm in this room. And people were coming to you with, Gerald, 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 what can we do? And you would just take a breath. Well, let's see what we can do. And if we do this and we do that, it'll be just fine. And I was amazed at how you maintained your calm, your sensei, and just solved problems, and everything worked itself out. And I have a feeling that that's one of the reasons for your success, beyond being a bit of a visionary, being somebody who would want to start a meetup group, so you could meet people you like putting things together. And once again, I'm not ashamed to say, I think you have one of the best voiceover conferences going. And we're talking about 5 days. For those of you who don't know, it's virtual this year, but it's the 19th through the 25th of this month. And can people still go to the website and become participants?
Oh, absolutely. That's one of the things with virtual is that, there's no hotel to book or airline to book or things like that. So you can leave the
And you won't even
suitcase
have
in
to
the
wear a
closet.
mask.
No mask required.
No mask required. Now, every year you have a theme, and this year the theme is resilience. Why?
Well, ultimately, the term resilience was actually suggested by someone, Anne Cipriano, uh, Joe's wife, and we have a great relationship, and so she put it out there, and I kind of thought about it because we do have a term every year that I think we try to build around, and so having come through 2020, uh, I've had it was a year, and while I've heard a lot of people in the VO community talk about their business side of things going really well, I'm a firm believer that we tend to share the things that are like the highlights of our life. But the truth is that there are people in this community who's lost someone. They've seen the world around them change. The world around me has changed a lot, and so I think it takes something extra to sometimes will yourself to take that next step. And even when the business side may be going well, you still got to deal with everything from the social, political stuff going on around you, just people and family impacted. Schools are impacted, and there's just like what I call I say 2020 was like the ultimate onion, a lot of layers and a lot of tears. So yeah, that's kind of how I looked at it. But in the end, you have to believe that things ultimately get better, or you figure out how to get better in the process. And so resilience, when Anne suggested it, just seemed like a great term to build around. And it's been something that the longer it sits out there, the more I come to appreciate it.
Well, you know what? When I saw the theme resilience, and the number of people that you have speaking, you've got some great people who are a part of this, and I'm proud to say that I'm one of them. But I thought of the number of people I saw, some of whom I know the kinds of things they went through. Several friends of mine, Kay Best there, Joe Cipriano, of course, Anne's husband, Anne
Yes.
Cipriano's husband, Joe. Uh,
Yes.
You've got one of my agents, Pat Brady, who suffered a horrible car accident. I think it was
Yeah.
2 years ago, and
Yep.
it was about a year of recovery. Somebody
Yep.
broadsided her, and it just took a long time to come back. And when you have as much gray hair as I do, and I see if you had more hair, you'd have more gray. But that, I'm sorry, that was a little shade. But if you're going to have a successful business, and this is a business, I think of myself as an artist, but the business person has to live in there too. And the only way to continue having a career, because things are going to knock you down, gigs are going to go away, you have to be resilient. You have to find a way to get up when the world knocks you down a little bit. I know for myself, I've had plenty of ups and downs. Great
Yep.
gigs, the voice of this, the voice of that, the voice of the other, and then things go away. And you have to rebuild. You have to find another way. So if we're going to be successful in this business, resilience, big part of it. So I was noticing part of your success with this is the sponsors you've got. BSW Broadcast Supply is there. Vocal Booth to Go is there. Gravy for the Brain is there. Source Elements. I wish we could get connection open on there. ACX is there. My buddy J. Michael Collins and his demos are there. Sennheiser and Neumann microphones are there. How did you attract such great sponsors?
Well, I think in the first year, I actually had sponsors like Sennheiser and things. And I think one of the things that has made those relationships work is that I try to build the conference around what they are interested in instead of just thinking, okay, well, I'm just going to throw this out there and get them to sign up. So it's always a question of, if you were to walk away from VO Atlanta saying that this was the most amazing conference your organization has ever been a part of, what exactly would you be telling people happened? What would that story be? Would it be that you've reached more people, that you have more sales, that you demonstrated your cool new product? Just, and then once you kind of know what that is, you try to tailor things in a very respectful, tasteful way so that people can see the product, they can understand what the organization is about, and they don't feel bombarded like, like you go to Walmart or something and there's always somebody standing in the aisle, like, hey, you want to buy something? Or they'll do that thing where they ask you like, hey, how you doing today? And you're not sure if they're a store employee or something. So I try to encourage them to make it more personable. VO Atlanta is built around the idea of relationships. And so it's always about the people first type of thing. And that goes with the sponsors as well. That if people in this community like you and they like your product, then they will continue to tell other people in this community about you and your product. But if they don't feel like you're an honest broker, or that you can talk about your product or explain your product in a meaningful way, then they're probably not going to gravitate toward you as much.
Okay. Another question. How did you
Sure.
come to have a conference that lasts so long? I think of Joan and Rudy's thing. It used to be Saturday and Sunday, and now on Sunday it's the voice art, the SOVAs, the awards. So they pack a lot in one day. But you have a conference that covers just about every aspect of voiceover, plus bilingual. There are workshops and X sessions. What's the difference between your workshops and your X sessions, too? I want to know that. And I have sat in. One of the things I like when I go, and when I go, usually I'm one of the people teaching. As a matter of fact, every time I go, I'm one of the people teaching. And I love doing that. And at the same time, I'm looking at the sessions that are going on while I'm teaching. And sometimes I'm like, oh, my God. Oh, I would love to sit in on that. And I've sat in on a number of sessions, and you just get good people with great information. Uh, how did you manage to put all that together? And what do you think, with all this going on, is the best way for uh, the typical voice actor or wannabe voice actor or intermediate voice actor to get the most out of the conference?
Okay, well, there's a
There's
lot to
about five
unpack.
questions in there.
There's a lot to unpack there, but let me try to tackle some of it. Is first of all, the easy one is the difference between a breakout session, breakout or panel, and the next session workshop is that the way the conference is structured is once you have a pass, you can access any panel, any of the general sessions that go on. The only exception to that are our workshops slash X sessions. And for those who don't know the backstory on X sessions, is in 2013 when I started the conference, there were people like Pat Fraley and John and Rudy and different ones who were speakers, and people were like, well, hey, I can't attend the full conference, but I would love to train with Pat Fraley while he's in town. Is there a way I could take a workshop with him or something? And Pat was going to leave on that Sunday, so the only time he was in town was during the conference. And so it dawned on me once. I was like, well, what if we just had like a very small group session of just a few people that, since Pat's in town, because, they would keep saying, well, hey, if you need me to do anything else while I'm there, let me know. And so that's where X Sessions was born, out of the idea that someone may not be able to attend the full conference, but they'd be open and interested in coming in just to take a workshop with someone like a Pat Fraley or Bob Bergen or any of the other fabulous speakers that we've had over the years. So that's the difference between, and they're limited to 12 people. So that's where you get much more focused attention, much more personalized things. And this year is unique in the sense that since the conference is virtual, the X sessions are for the first time ever available to people anywhere in the world. And that's never been the case before.
Yeah, so there's a silver lining. There's a silver lining to the pandemic, that some things we can't do, like touch one another, but you can be anywhere and be there, and I
Right.
think that's fantastic. Uh, so audiobooks are this huge thing, and I have been quoted as saying, and I said it, I've done 3 audiobooks, and I hope to never do a fourth. As a matter of fact, I caught hell from somebody in the audiobook, one of the audiobook speakers, one year when I was there. I'd mentioned just what I just said, and she got up. Well, those of us who do audiobooks, we feed our families, we pay for our homes and cars and audio. And I'm like, lady, I got nothing against audiobooks. I just don't want to do them.
Right.
And to coin a phrase, some of my best friends are audiobook narrators. But but you've got a whole audiobook academy. How did that come about? And by the way, while I'm asking this question, if you've got a question for Gerald, please put it there. If something you want to know about VO Atlanta, how it's going to benefit you, just anything personal you want to ask about VO Atlanta, put it in there and we'll get to it. So, your audiobook academy, how did that come about?
Okay. Well, let me tell you about the Audiobook Academy. But one question that you asked prior that I'd like to circle back to really quick, and don't let me get too far away
No.
from the Audiobook Academy, is you were asking like what people get out of the conference. And one of the things I think back to is when I was in those first couple of years, that question was asked a lot. What is going to be my ROI? What am I going to get out of it? What's in it for me? And then it dawned on me one day that I only control a certain aspect of that answer. My job as the executive producer is to create an environment in which you have access to the best and brightest minds in the industry. Your job at the conference is to avail yourself of those assets. And the example I use is this. When I go to Home Depot or Lowe's, I don't go in with the mindset of what they're going to do for me. What am I going to get out of it? You're going to get access to the tools and sometimes some a little tip here and there that you need to go home and do the work. They don't fix your sink at the Home Depot. They don't build your extra room at the Home Depot. They simply assist you by providing the tools and resources you need to go do the work. And so what I realized was I cannot take the responsibility, my team can't take the responsibility of what you ultimately get. What we can take the responsibility is to make sure great resources, people who are totally legit resources in the industry like yourself who loves teaching and get excited about working with people, to get you into a space where they have access to you and the years of experience you bring to the table. And then what they should do is engage with you, stay in touch with you, listen to and look for those nuggets, as Bob Bergen likes to talk about, those nuggets. And then they take that back and then they build on it. They build on it, they build on it, and they build on it. And so the people who speak most fondly of the conference now, if you listen to the way they speak of it, they talk about the seeds that were planted in those relationships that they made, those connections they made with other people, and how things outside of the conference is where it really took off. The conference just happened to be kind of like that Home Depot. You can do it, we can help. Kind
I like that. You can do it. We can help. Got a question here. I would like to attend the Audiobook Academy. How would somebody do that? Is there something
of,
extra they have to do other than uh, sign up for VO Atlanta?
No, it's completely standalone. So just to put the Audiobook Academy in context, because you asked how that came about, things like that. So one of the concepts that I was building on before COVID, BC, right, is that VO Atlanta is not a conference. Okay, it's almost like a university and a college relationship, where VO Atlanta is kind of the university, and then there are genres within that which represent the various areas of voiceover. So as the conference is evolving, I look to identify areas that have enough community around it where it can essentially be a standalone item. So the audiobook happened to be the first area where there was happening, and the plan would have been for this year to be gaming, because gaming has its own community of people and resources and focus. So the goal would have been that this year we would have had the gaming academy at VO Atlanta, and there would have been a separate ticket you could buy, because people who are deep into gaming, that's their focus. That's what they want. But then they also want to have the social engagement and interaction and stuff kind of in between that. So VO Atlanta serves as like the big umbrella that brings it all together. But hey, if you got a gaming ticket, you just go and you can bury yourself in a gaming conference. And so if you look at the schedule of the way we break things down, yes, there's a lot of stuff there. But the goal is that if Dave comes to the conference, Dave can filter the schedule to gaming, and Dave has essentially attended a gaming conference because he's taken everything related to someone in gaming. The person for audiobook could filter on audiobook, and there's enough content there for them to benefit and be fully engaged in audiobook. Someone who comes and they're a Spanish speaker can filter on Spanish, and they're able to see that, wow, there are a lot of things here if I just want to take sessions led and provided for the Spanish speaker in mind. And so that's why it ends up being a thing where, yes, you look at it and there's this buffet of things, but that's also the beauty of it, that when people go to a buffet, one person wants to go and they're thinking soul food. So they go and they get their fried chicken and their collard greens and cornbread. But then someone else is thinking, oh, I'm getting in shape for my my thing, and I'm going to go over here and I'm going to get a salad, and I want to make just this giant salad. They can both leave the restaurant fully satisfied and full, right?
Yeah.
But their dining experience was very different. And that's how VO Atlanta is. You left having felt like you had a really good engagement with other people in gaming, and someone else left having had a great engagement in the audiobook sector.
Yeah. And by the way, let me just do this for a second.
Sure.
Ta-da! I just wanted to let the world know
Nice.
I'm going to be there. And once again, you get to 19th through the 25th. That's coming
Hmm.
up. It's right around the corner. So don't sleep on this.
Yeah.
Oops, and oh, wait a minute. No, where is it? Oh, there it is. I could let it go there. And you've just got a bevy of really, really, really good people. Um, I remember sitting in on a conference. I don't think it was just a meeting. And her name is I'm, I'm not remembering just at the moment, but it was all about narration, uh, but not necessarily television narration, but corporate narr, uh, that kind of thing. How to charge by the word, and how to count the words, and how to find the clients, because that's an area that a lot of agents aren't handling. And this was a couple hour session, and it was so detailed. It was full of such great information. I remember walking out of there. Well, this isn't the thing I do, but wow, I'm glad I sat in on that and can see how many genres of this thing called voiceover are getting service, because all too often people think commercials, TV promos, uh, on-screen narration, thinking about National Geographic, that kind of thing, and
Right.
animation and video games. And it's so much more. It's so much more. Let's see. I've got a question here. Didn't pre-read it. Let's find out together. When the world is back to normal, do you think we'll go back to operating like before the pandemic, or will there be little bit of virtual aspect? Thank you for your time. And I think that's a question for you.
Okay. Well, as a person who comes from both the tech background and the event planning background, I think what you'll see going forward is a lot more of a hybrid. I could tell you that, if I were to know now, to know then what I know now, um, we would have a hybrid component built in and baked into the mix, so that people who are anywhere in the world can still feel like they're a part of it, and that would be an integrated thing. And so I've actually got some interesting ideas that I've refused to let myself think about too much, because
Because then you'll try
I
to implement them right now.
yeah, and then my brain is just completely fried. But yeah, so I think you'll see more of a hybrid type thing. I don't know what back to normal really means, because I think
Mm.
everything prior that we thought of as normal was all based on a progression of things. And so COVID basically broke that entire progression back to a certain point. And so I think in many ways, we're all still trying to figure out how that fits back together. And truthfully, as much as we tend to focus on the negative aspects of COVID, uh, with any great disaster, there is also great opportunity for change. And so I think one of the things COVID did was it's its benefit in a weird kind of way is that it affected everyone around the globe. And so it forced a global level change in the way we think about things, the way we understand how interconnected we are, the way we understand, how something happening around the world also impacts us, uh, the way we understand how technology can be leveraged to have things continue forward, whereas maybe 30 or 40 years ago, had COVID happened, we wouldn't have had a Zoom, we wouldn't have had, this ECAM type software to keep those things going. So imagine a world in which there was no alternative to do things virtually. Life would have just somewhat stopped.
It's interesting because One of the best things we do as human beings is change, and yet one of the hardest things we do as human beings is change. And which is odd because change actually is the only constant. And from my own personal point of view, what I see for a lot of us is that we'll be able to do a lot more work from our home studios than we did before. It used to be that high end commercials, video games, and most of animation, you had to go to somebody else's studio for, and sometimes for very, very good reason. Uh, Having had a studio for about 25 years, um, I was very well set up. I've seen a lot of people. We mentioned Bob Bergen before, who we had him on a few weeks ago. He goes, yeah, in 10 days I had to come up with a home studio. I really didn't have a home studio suitable for working. Well,
Right.
I think on our side as talent, we have learned to become our own little engineers a little bit and set up our studios um, at, to sound good no matter what they look like just at the moment. You know, we've got some closets with clothes in them that are working real well, but maybe you don't want your client to see that. But
Yeah.
we've also got a system of people who hire us now, who have become more comfortable with the idea of us
Right.
being at home and working from there. I think that's going to work in the brick and mortar world of employees and employers, that employers will want to save a little money by, oh, maybe I don't have to have you come in. I don't need as much office space. You can work from home. You can be accountable. Um,
Right.
we don't need as many brick and mortar stores. And I know for some people that's a problem. But on the other hand, and I'm not saying this because I like them or anything, but Amazon has hired more people in a short period of time than anybody else. Um,
Yeah.
the world is changing. I saw a thing today. Ford, by 9 years from now or 11 years from now, uh, plans to have all electric cars.
Right.
So we really are in an exciting time. And I tell people all the time, we live in the world as voice actors. We are not separate from the world. This is not something outside of the commerce that goes on. We are a part of it. The reason some reads don't work anymore is because that's not what people want to hear anymore. That's not who they trust anymore. So we have to find ways to keep up with the times. And now that I have ranted on a little bit, let me get a couple other questions. When the world is back to normal, do you? Oh, that's the one we just did. We'll
Hmm.
skip him. And I need to learn how to speak English with a French Louisiana Creole accent. Do you have any resources? Haven't found any. That's getting very
Actually,
specific.
one of the categories VO Atlanta offers is called vocal support, and there are a number of sessions in there that are specific to dialects. So if whoever the person is were to go to the voatlanta.me site, there's a button there that takes them over to the conference page, and they can actually filter the program tracks and look at vocal support. And they will see that there are a number of sessions in there that deal with everything from breathing techniques to dialect, controlling accents, and things like that. And it's one of the categories I'm actually most proud of because organizations like Vasta and the resources that come along in that vocal support, you will find a lot of these aren't just talent, they're actually practicing professors and things at the university level and in medical fields that are offering this advice. So it's not simply someone who happens to be a voice talent. No, these are people who teach this at a credentialed, highly educated professional level that are going to be able to coach and provide guidance about how to work with your accents and things like that. And I'm a big believer too that because of things like the internet and being able to be in different markets and things is until you uh, work with your accent to make it into what you want, go find the market where your accent is in demand. If you've got a Creole accent, then do some homework and say, where is my accent the thing that people look for? Because that's what the internet gives you the ability to do as well. If you've got a country accent, it's great that maybe you want to learn how to minimize that. But somewhere there's a market where country accents are in demand. They're not looking for a New York accent, they're looking for an authentic country sound because that's the product that they're selling. Yeah.
That's the market they're
So
trying to hit. That's the demographic. And we are a society now where we tend to want to hear from somebody that kind of reminds us of us,
exactly.
whether that's good or bad.
Yeah, which us are we talking about?
Uh,
No, but that's the beauty of the whole internet thing is uh, it really does say if you take the time to do some research, there is somewhere, particularly like with audiobooks, if you think about it, right? Would you have a person with a neutral New York sound or neutral English, but the book itself is set in the West. It's a story of grit and survival in the old West. It's probably not a really neutral sound. It's probably a more gritty sounding, a deeper, warm tone or something like that, because that's maybe the sound people associate with that. So audiobooks is a great area where you expect that voice and that tenor and that tone to be authentic to the piece that's written.
and oops, so that's not what I wanted. I stay there. Um, that in fact is one of the directions audiobooks are going in. As a matter of fact, lately the audiobooks that I will do are where I'm playing a character in the audiobook. I don't have to read the whole doggone thing. I can have a session for a few hours and be done with it. Playing a character. It's very, very, very much like video games on the more realistic end of video games. Video games are like movies. Where you have the very, very real to the very, very fantastic. And those audiobook characters tend to be much more down to earth, real, and fun to play. They're great acting exercises, and they need accents of all kinds. Let's see. I have a question here. I had to completely pivot the model of my business due to COVID, so I know how hard the last year has been. I really commend you for sticking with that, with this, because I know that many of you enjoy VO Atlanta. Well, you know what? We do. And one of the things is the fellowship. Uh, since we have all been working at home even before uh, the COVID as voice actors, so many of us are working from our home studios. I know in my career, got to LA in the 90s, you went to your agents to audition, you went to studios to work, you ran into buddies here and there, you'd have lunch in a restaurant someplace and on to your other gigs or auditions or whatever. Since we've been at home, uh, especially when you're doing a lot of TV promos, I was one of those guys, still am, thankfully. Um, when you're working from home, you're kind of a hermit. You've got the golden handcuffs on. You don't get to hang out and see people. So it's kind of nice to have this internet where at least there you are. I can almost touch you. Not quite, but yeah. Uh, and thinking of you when you were talking about how can I bring, since we can have people from all over the world virtually, even though next year, all my fingers are crossed, saying a prayer and I'll sacrifice a chicken. Uh, Even though next year we want VO Atlanta to be in Atlanta, you actually can still have people from all over the world watching some of the television shows that are on now, where there's a small audience and there's a bank of screens with audience there. Now you don't necessarily have to have the bank of screens, but you certainly can have those people that would be behind those screens taking part in being able to ask questions like this audience is asking questions. And speaking of which, here's another one. Mr. Griffith, do you think VO Atlatl will return to an in-person conference? Kind of covered this a little bit. Though I love the technological advancement, I do love face-to-face experience and was looking forward to attending your conference in ATL, i.e. coaching, etc.
Yeah, I am. I am an in-person person through and through and through. Um, Come from a big family in the South, all about family and people and things like that. And so, not doing it in person is very different. And when people would ask, or comment, I used to try to, make some type of parallel between the virtual and in person. And the reality is, they're different. Uh, they're just different. I mean, I think they both have their good points. They both have their benefits. They both allow you to do things that in one setting or the other might be more difficult. For instance, there will be people attending the conference from South Korea that ordinarily would have traveled many, many, many hours to be here, but now they're able to still be in South Korea and and watch from there. So technology allows that to happen. It doesn't replace the experience of being in person, but it does provide some level of connectivity and kind of a stopgap measure for us to still stay in touch. And I can tell you for a minute there after the whole COVID thing, I hadn't really talked to people or been in sessions. And then there was a panel discussion that Donovan Cornitz and Jeff Howell had put together. And I had a meeting with them. And it was like for the first time, I was looking at a screen with 6 or 9 people that I really hadn't engaged with since the conference change. And just seeing their faces on the screen just felt really good. It just felt good to see people and to see expressions and to be able to laugh together and things like that. And so it's one of those cases where we're all in this together, whether we like it or not. So if you've got to be stuck on an island, be stuck on an island with people who are going to make the most out of it and figure out how to build some little tiki huts and make the most. We're gonna roast something. We're gonna enjoy our time, even though our time may not be of our own choosing.
Or
Uh,
stuck on an island with high tech so you can connect with people all over the world. I don't
yeah,
know
and
what
look,
island that would be.
one of the lessons I learned, having spent 8 years in the military and served in a couple of different countries, was that it mattered less the place I was as much as it did the people I connected to while I was there. And this is no different. I was in Korea, and in many cases, it was a kind of rundown environment. It was a very poor section of the country, but the people I served with there were great. I mean, we made the most of everything. We just had a good time there, even though our surroundings was often out in the field and mud and dirt. We had a good time. I was in Europe, sometimes close to the border of France or different things like that. But I would sometimes be with people that I didn't have as great of a time with. And so, in many cases, my time in a place that you thought would be more entertaining and exciting was less so because of the people that I was surrounded with. So, I say that to say this: the voiceover community is just that. You build relationships, um, you make connections, you build from those connections, and that's what makes it great. It's not your microphone, it's not all those things like that. It's you taking the time to reach out to someone. And I know, like for instance, Dave is that type of person. If you reach out to him and ask him a question, he's going to respond to you. He's not arrogant. He's not going to push you off or anything like that. He'll answer your question. He'll get back to you. And that's how
Might not be today.
yeah, it might not be within the hour or something like that, but and I generally find that the people who've gravitated to being speakers and things at VO Atlanta, when I have calls with them or messages with them, I don't really talk to them about voiceover. Which will surprise some people, right? It's like I do an interview, and my interview with the speakers you see at VO Atlanta is very rarely about voiceover. It's all about them and who they are as a person. Because there's a saying that says people don't care what you know until they know that you care. And I find the same to be true with speakers. I can read your resume on your website. I can learn about the awards. I can see all the logos of all the fancy projects you've worked on. But it doesn't mean you're a kind person who cares about someone who's just getting started. It doesn't mean that you're a person who can break down the essence of your 20 or 30 years in the business to someone who 2 weeks ago was working at the drive-through at Wendy's. You know, it's those persons. The people who don't become speakers at VO Atlanta are ones who make statements like, "Oh, I'm above that. I don't deal with newbies." That's fine. I can respect that, but you would never be a speaker with me
Yeah. And
because one,
everybody was a newbie at one point or another.
exactly. Yep.
I will often, well, one, people are your best resource. You might have this company, this company, this company, this company name on whatever your the agency name, the this, that, or the other, whatever it is. But it's the person and the persons you interact with that make the difference. Um, I have often told my origin story in voiceover because I think people need to hear those kinds of stories. Everybody has one. This is
Yep.
not the kind of career where you went to school, you got the degree, you started knocking on doors, they looked at your credentials and hired you for that job, and you can move from city to city to city to city to do it. This is not that. This is a very special kind of career that requires you to really be you, first of all, because you are the secret sauce in your career, and
Yep.
it requires you to be personable with the people that you're working with, the people who hire you, your agents. You are not just you. There's a team uh, that is putting this career together. And speaking of team, all the things that VO Atlanta is, it's big, it's huge, it covers all the genres, it covers bilingual. I know you can't do it by yourself. You've got some very good people. I'm going to ask, is Ron Minitree still working with you?
Not directly, but Ron is kind of like that if you ever have those movies or shows sometimes where it's like that little figure that shows up in the mirror, they still talk to you long after they're not physically there. Ron and I do stay in touch, and I can't think of someone that probably has had more of a positive impact on just bringing so much experience to the table. He and his wife both, and just man, just feel so fortunate to have had a chance to work with Ron. But yeah, we stay in touch, and we talk about the conference from time to time. But fortunately, he's doing amazing things himself. He's out doing public speaking and virtually, and he's loving it because now he's able to be keynote speaker all around the globe. So
And
yeah.
it was funny because when I realized Ron and you guys were working together, and he was always there, such a big part, and he's from down in East Texas, where my mother's side of the family is, and I mean just a stone's throw away. But so many of the people who are teaching and coaching are also some of the people who are working with you putting this together. Am I correct?
Yeah, well, I have a couple of people who are primarily assisting me now. Lillian Brooks and Christy Bowen are the primaries working with me now. The team has totally been shifted around because everybody's got life stuff that they're juggling and things right now. But I feel like someone asked me once, they said, "How do you end up with a great team?" of people to help you run the conference. And I truly believe that a great team is gifted to you. And what I mean by that is everyone that's been a core part of our team are people who extended their hand to help and actually meant that they wanted to help. Like they came to the table like, hey, I'm here. Where can I fit in? How can I help? I'm going to show up early. I'm going to stay late. I'm going to contribute. I'm going to be a part of everything. And there's nothing I could have done to find them. They put themselves out there to be a part of it. And I just feel like I've been so fortunate in that regard because you're right, there are a lot of components. I'm seeing messages even pop up now from Christy and Lillian who are doing their thing right now, updating stuff in the background, and it's like, hey, this just got updated, that got updated, and so I definitely couldn't do it alone.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Um, and I got a question here from Victor Singleton. What are you looking forward to the most during the event on the 19th? And Victor, that's the 19th through the 25th. That's a lot of days on the line, from in the morning till early in the evening, that you have planned. But of all of that, what's the thing that really makes you the happiest? What are you looking forward to the most?
The 26th.
So,
No.
so do you ever go, you know what? I think that's the last one. I'm not doing this again.
I look, Dave. You and I go back a while, man. So I'm just gonna shoot straight with you. Imagine just getting to that place. I mean, and this is the context that people have to understand. We are right now, right? Is that we weren't 90 days away from VO Atlanta when COVID kind of happened. There wasn't like we saw something happen way out there and we could regroup and realign and readjust and everything. No, no, no. March 11th, I had just reaffirmed everything being a go at the conference for the conference to take place physically.
And you
The
had
conference
probably
was going to
put
start
out
the
quite a
25th.
bit of money to secure.
Man,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bring back that unhappy memory.
yeah, well, it is what it is. It's a part of what it is. So it's one of those things that again we weren't far out, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
and the conference was taking place over two hotels. So you imagine we equip our own spaces because nobody's going to do the crazy stuff that we do as far as like our days would run from 6:30 in the morning up till 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. And we're in dozens of rooms. There's sometimes 13 sessions going on at one time. And so to have all of the different pieces in place to do that and to have it all come to a screeching halt is just, I kind of jokingly say it's like taking an Amtrak train that's going full speed coming into the thing and then just stopping it on a dime.
Mm.
It's a hard thing to do. But to your thing about the future of it, I think right now, I jokingly say about the 26th, I'm looking forward to it taking place, but I think it's just one of those things that a lot of things have happened in my life, in addition to carrying the thought of the conference. I think often, I've gotten caught up sometimes in what's going on with the conference. And literally, COVID has a way of helping you understand that maybe there's a lot more to life than what you're getting caught up into at this moment. And there are points where I got really down about stuff, but then I think about 500,000 people who wish they could have my problem.
Yeah.
They wish that was the worst thing going on
And
with them.
the all the people who loved them, who
Hmm.
wished
Yep.
that wasn't what happened in their life. When you're gone,
Yep.
you're gone. You know, you didn't
Yeah,
want to
you can't
go.
you can't reschedule that. You can't
No.
make it a virtual thing and have grandmother back and stuff like that. And so that's why sometimes it's a little frustrating sometimes now where there's a small contingent of people that just don't want to accept the fact that some things can't be done the way you planned them
Yeah.
a year ago. And so there's a little frustrating there. But one of the things I have done, I think, just in the whole COVID thing overall, is that I just accept the fact that all of us are going to deal with this level of change in our own unique way. Some will adapt to it well, some won't. But the truth of the matter is that if we were to trace back probably many of the large, more historically significant companies or things that were started in our lifespan or that of our parents, they trace back to things like the Great Depression, which was some of the Great Depression or World War II, times where you had major things happening in the world. And that's where those significant organizations were born. There will be significant things born out of COVID. It's just a question of, are people going to spend more time focused on what they can start, or are they going to spend more time focused on what was stopped? And you can't do both. You can't dwell on both of those. And so for me, I'm like, yeah, things are different. Things didn't happen the way I planned. But by the same token, I'm looking forward, even though I can't see it all right now, even though I don't know what it all looks like right now. I'm going to get up every day, like I continue to do now, and say, okay, let's see what today holds, you know, because the way I figure it is this: for most of us, no matter what problems we think we have, a phone call is actually all it takes to have us look at our entire life differently. If you got a call that said you booked that major project, all of a sudden you feel different about your life.
Yes.
If you got that call to say you won the lottery or something, you'd suddenly look at your life differently. So what that tells me is life for us is circumstantial in most cases. Because if one phone call can change things like that, then it means that you're only in a circumstance. If it's not true, then a phone call can't fix it. If you suffered loss during COVID, a phone call can't change that. So there's some things that can't be changed. But right now I'm focused on saying, hey, every day I'm healthy enough to get up under my own strength. My kids are here with me. I've lost a couple family members in the last 12, 14 months. It makes you look at things differently. It makes you reevaluate certain priorities, and it makes you appreciate some of those relationships that you have, that even through the conference, man. I mean, to be able to say that I could pick up my phone right now and probably call somebody on every continent in this world, just through the 7 or 8 years of the conference.
I have a lot of really good friends from this conference, from around the world. Just the other day, was speaking with Ahmed from Egypt, who I met
Hmm.
at your conference, who I remember befriending because I thought, well, here is this Arab guy from Egypt with all this Arabic writing in this little room in Atlanta. I hope everybody's treating him okay. And he's just a great guy. And we've had a friendship. He's come to the house. We've broken bread, and he's
Yeah.
invited me to Egypt. We had a nice long talk about the return of the kings and queens as England sent back the mummies that they had stolen. But anyway, that's another story.
Wow.
Gerald, you there's a reason that I like you so much, and so much of that came out today in your conversation. Just uh, your mind and your heart together. You're sharp as a tack, and your heart is warm and filled with love and caring, and the idea of, yeah, just get up every day and do it. Things are going to go right, things are going to go wrong, but you have to show up. And you don't know where your blessings are going to come from. It's one of the big lessons of my life. Whenever I was planning something that I thought, well, if I do this will work. And that
Yeah.
falls apart, and a bigger blessing comes from out of nowhere. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not coming.
Oh, yeah. In fact, in many cases, you're not going to see it because our view of life is pretty small. In the grand scheme of things, we look at things through a straw.
Well, it's an
And
infinite universe out there. What are we?
yeah, nothing. But that's one of the things. Like one of the experiences I love most, and I got to get back to at some point is air travel, because it's one of those moments where I enjoy the exhilaration of the takeoff, but the second thing that I enjoy is the realization as I look down that if you can elevate your thinking in much way, if the plane is elevated, all of a sudden the things that you were worried about kind
Seems
of
so
blend into the
small.
background. They
Yeah.
fade away, and you remember that this world is so much bigger than my one little set of problems down on that little rock below me, 30,000 feet down.
Yeah.
And so it's just little things like that. Just remembering, and my experiences with the conference, I will always value the relationships that are there. Um, just the conversations I've had a chance to have with people over the years, and my biggest I think accomplishment with it that I've been privileged to just watch so many friendships be born, and people uh, in many cases people would have worked together for years and years, but they only met when they came to the Atlanta in person. so uh, standing in the back of the room just seeing people learn
Yeah.
and things like that has just always been a thrilling thing for me. I still have on my list to get out there with you one day, and whenever you get
Well,
your
come on.
jazz in the backyard.
Well,
Thing.
we couldn't do it this year at Knocked Out Backyard.
I know.
But
So,
we're trying to figure out exactly when we can look to schedule. And it's a couple minutes after 7. I promised I'd let you out of here at 7 o'clock. But I got
yeah.
one more question. It's random as hell. As a matter of fact, they even say it's random. Off topic and only as I can only be. What's your sign, Mr. Griffith?
I am a left-handed Libra.
Left hand.
That's how I
Okay.
like to tell it.
Double L.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's random enough, and I'm going to let you go here. Listen, thank you so much for joining us and sharing with us all things VO Atlanta and more. And I'm looking forward to my 3 sessions next week, and sitting in on some other sessions with some folks, because I don't care how long you've been doing this, there's always something else to learn.
That is definitely true. And look, it goes for me too. Even though my part of it isn't the VO part of it, uh, trust me, when you get to deal with 800 personalities, it can be a character building exercise to say the least.
Absolutely.
So,
All right, gonna let you go, and so thank you again so much, and we'll talk if I can catch you this week sometime. And once again, everybody, if you're interested in coaching, DaveFennoy.com, click on the Study VO tab. This and almost all of the other Ask Dave Fennoy anythings are living on YouTube at Dave Fennoy Voiceover Training. I hope a lot of you will take advantage of VO Atlanta. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. And with that, I will say goodbye. See you next Wednesday. And go on out and book something, okay? Okay. Bye-bye.